show you how some of our ancient windows here work. These are some of the most wonderful windows that I've ever had the opportunity to work on, simply because of the simplicity of the design. And they're very easy to work on to remove the sashes. Basically, there's just this piece of window stop molding here. You pull it loose and you have this little removable panel that allows you the access to the sash weights. So as you raise this up, the sash weight comes down, and these are unique in that they are lead, which I've never seen lead sash weights before. Usually they're made out of cast iron, so it contests to the original condition of these windows. So it's nice having this window to be able to go up and down after 220 years. When we were here last Tuesday, we were looking closely at these windows. These are some of the original exterior windows to the house, and I happened to notice this little piece of cord hanging down here. And of course, it appears to be the original sash cord for when these windows were put in, and it does not appear to be cotton cord. It appears to be hemp. I have never seen a sash cord this old, and this side unfortunately is broken, but the other side over here is still intact, and the lead weight should still be on it. So it's quite a unique little feature to have a sash cord from this era that we can actually have as an example. Windows from the 1850s edition, relatively similar to the ones that are in the older part of the house, but the weights in these windows are cast iron weights, very similar to clock weights. They're rectangular and about this tall, and each weight runs up and down in a channel. This is the access panel right here that you take out to get to your sash weights that are behind here. But what's interesting is that there's a little panel behind here. You reach your finger in and slide it up and down, and that would give you the access to the upper window sash weight. So I've never seen anything like that. So each one actually runs in the rectangular weights run up and down in a rectangular channel, specifically made just for those weights. But most of the weights that we see in more modern windows are just cylindrical cast iron weights. But this window in particular was in the worst shape of all the downstairs windows. This upper sash literally came out in pieces, so it required a little bit more work, but I think it looks pretty good. So just glad to have it back and operating after 160, 170 years. Well, this is the kitchen window sash right here, and the reason why I chose this one is to show you how you can take something that is in relatively bad condition. This piece of wood came out of the bottom right here. You can see where it was originally attached. So it's in pretty sad shape, all in all. But so this one required a little bit of extra restoration work. This window is from the kitchen, so it's not really all that old, but I'll show you the other side here. So once they're restored, they're actually quite nice looking, and I like to say it's restored so it looks as good as old, not as good as new. So after we take the sashes out, some of them come out in pieces, such as this. This is one of the smaller windows from upstairs that has been restored. So some of them come out in pieces, and as you can see the end here, they're really quite rotten. There isn't a whole lot left to work with. This window sash is from upstairs in the house. It's from one of the windows right up here. And the next thing in the process, of course, is to remove the glass. It's a relatively simple operation. You just take your utility knife and scrape along, and actually this part of the process works better when the windows are in worse condition, because then your glazing compound comes right out. And so once you work around and cut all the glazing out, then you can pop the glasses. The glasses should come right out. The only thing you have to watch for when you're doing this is the old glazier's points, which oddly enough are usually made out of zinc. One of the worst enemies to any window is metal. I've seen 18th century windows where somebody put a nail in to hold one of the pieces of glasses in. The nail rusted, the wood rotted, and now you have a hole this big. Whereas if they never used any rustable metal. But the ancient glazier's points they used to put these glasses in were zinc. So obviously they didn't rust. You typically find no metal in most good window or in antique window construction. All right, the next step after you've taken the glasses out is you have a window sash that looks like this. This one is in pretty good condition. It doesn't have any rotten spots. Typically, since they're put together with just joinery, they're somewhat wobbly, but that's okay. We don't care about that because when we put the glasses in, it will stiffen it right up. So this particular sash, even though it looks kind of nasty, isn't going to require much restoration. Even on the side where you do your glazing here, this groove is called your glazing rabbet, not like a rabbit, like a bunny rabbit, but a R-A-B-B-E-T-T, which is a woodworker's term. So you need to have a relatively good structure for this because that's where your glass lays flat in there. So as you're restoring the windows, I kind of have to pay attention to making sure that channel that holds the glass is in pretty good shape. Other than that, putty knife, we scrape a lot of paint, and the whole object here is to get as much of the old paint off as we possibly can. Sometimes I have to use a heat gun to get the rest of the remaining paint off, but I want to expose the bare wood. The next step is actually treating this wood to help reconstitute the substance of the wood. This wood is old, it's bleached out, it's oxidized, and it doesn't have much substance. So what I do, I use a 50-50 mixture of boiled linseed oil and turpentine. Once you paint that onto the wood and give it several coats, it soaks into the wood, it reconstitutes it, it helps waterproof it, it hardens it, and it gives it a whole lot more substance. Plus, when you put the primer on, since this is a linseed oil base on this, we're just using, according to the National Park Service Department of the Interior guidelines for restoring historic windows, you only use basically oil-based products. So the linseed oil soaked into the wood, the really good high-grade primer that I use will go on after that, after the linseed oil. And basically, the sashes end up looking almost like this, but without the glass. They actually look really quite nice. And this one has been finished painted, but when they're primed, they'll look basically very much like that. The next step is installing the glass. Now this sash here hasn't been primed yet, but I'm going to use it just to demonstrate how you reinstall the glass. The first thing you have to do is, again, make sure that your glazing rabbet is actually in good clean shape so that you have a flat surface to put the glass down into. The glazing compound I'm using is it remains elastic. Supposedly, I've been doing a lot of research, and everybody who does historic windows uses this stuff. So I can see that being a good thing, because most of the glasses that cause problems, it's when the old putty, as you can see here, has dried out and turned into a powder. So then obviously that isn't good for waterproofing the glass, and keeping it in the window sash. So hopefully this particular type of putty will work quite well. It's not the easiest stuff to work with, but what we do is place our glass in our glazing rabbit like that, get a glob of the glazing putty, roll it into a ball, and start making our worm. This is all right. There's that side. And there's that side. I gotta find my putty knife. Okay. Now we have our glass down into the glazing rabbit. We take our putty knife and we just basically squish it in like this. Not a complex feat. Get some of the excess off. And then I remove some of the other excess, like so. Put it back in the bucket, and we pat it down a little bit and smooth it out. Okay. Remove a little bit more of our excess, straighten it up. And there you go. Not bad, huh?
For more information about the Fairfield Foundation, visit our website, www.fairfieldfoundation.org.